And I was thinking how many alumni from the University of Montana program there might be that I could name, and I came up with 35 without even trying, that are working with Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. And I see quite a few of them here today. I didn't miss too many, I guess, that are here. And not only what it does for Fish, Wildlife, and Parks as an organization, but our colleagues, our University of Montana Wildlife Program graduates, whether you're talking about the Forest Service or Fish and Wildlife Service or BLM, whether you're talking about nonprofit conservation organizations or even private industry. So the partnerships that we develop as professionals, actually, if you think about it, they started in the classrooms right here. We go through our whole lives. And so I guess even as we move on with our careers, I think we still want to meet the standards that were set when we were young and when we came into the program, and don't want to let people down. So I think that guidance persists throughout our whole careers. So on behalf of your alumni and colleagues in professional wildlife management in Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, we wish you a happy 75th.
The other group that I would like to recognize here today is our faculty in the wildlife program, because ultimately it's people that make things like this work. So will all current faculty members please rise? All right, as you can see, we've got quite a few folks that show up for these sorts of things. Eric Green, behaviorist. Mike, I'll go through these fairly quickly. Mike Mitchell done a lot of work on bears. He's the leader of the Cooperative Wildlife Research Unit. He took over after Bart O'Gara and Joe Ball. Jeff Good, who I think is the second most junior faculty member, who works in genomics and wildlife. Joel Berger, who is our cricket chair. Scott Mills, population ecologist. Dick Hutto, ornithologist, monitoring bird populations. Victoria Dreitz, who is a bird ecologist as well, who's joined us about a year ago now. Lisa Evie, who is in the black and back. Fish ecologist, Dave Noggle, many of you have heard his work on sage-grouse. You'll see more of that here in a bit. Terry Forsman, our mammalogist, as Phil Wright taught me to pronounce it. And last but not least, Paul Lucas, who might be the most junior. I'm not sure when these two guys started. Paul Lucas, quantitative population ecologist. Thanks. Okay, next, one of the things that I did just a little bit late. Shortly after Les Pengelly died, I realized that there were a group of faculty members who had been here for a long time, and that if we didn't get them recorded soon, we wouldn't have the opportunity to do that. And so we went around and we recorded some of the faculty members. My recollection was we did video recordings. The library tells me they were audio. But we've got an alumni, Jeremy Roberts, Jeremy Roberts, who has put together a bunch of those photographs that we have, the audio that we have, into about an 11-minute history of the wildlife program. And so, Emma, you could start that. I'll show that.
Started in the fall of 1936, It's housed in the College of Forestry and Conservation, but it's formally a joint program between forestry, the Division of Biological Sciences, and the Cooperative Wildlife Research Unit. We have students today from 37 different states, 8 different countries within our program, almost 400 students overall. I could not be more pleased with the way the program has grown. The faculty here are dedicated, they're hardworking, they're bright. We're able to attract them in part because of Montana, and many of them want to be part of something bigger because of these leaders that we've had in the program in the past, because they see something special here. Phil Wright taught at the University of Montana mammalogy ornithology, I believe from 1939 until 1984. Phil got his PhD from the University of Wisconsin, and when he applied for the job here, Aldo Leopold, who was a faculty member at the University of Wisconsin, wrote him a letter of recommendation. When Dick Hutto was hired as the ornithologist, Phil took him out on a field trip to show him where Phil had taken his ornithology classes on field trips.
And I was putting the binoculars on what, for me, I think was the first time in my life I'd ever seen this bird, which I thought was a pine grosbeak, but wasn't sure. And I said, I don't know, I think it's, and then, pow! Kaboom! I had a shotgun out, shot that bird.
If you saw something neat, you needed to be able to prove that that's actually collected in 1977 in the fall.
Phil began developing this museum in the late 1930s, early 1940s, and the collection now, I think, has a little over 30,000 specimens. We can actually use material from those particular specimens that might have been collected 100 years ago and extract DNA from those. So the museum collection is really quite valuable.
Wes Pengelly was on the faculty for many years.
He started work December 1st, 1954, and then in '63 he was hired as a permanent member of the faculty. Later on, he became vice president and president of the Wildlife Society.
Wes was also very well known for his criticism of Yellowstone National Park. He felt that carrying capacity was exceeded by the numbers of elk that were in Yellowstone back in the 70s and 80s. And so he was almost persona non grata in the park at that time. Wes taught a course called Careers in Wildlife. He would tell them at the beginning of the class, only 2 of you are going to end up being wildlife biologists. And yet anybody who came into his office and sat down would always get an earful about all the joys and the pleasures and the things that you can really achieve if you set your mind to it. He was a really good mentor to our students. Bart O'Gara was the leader of the Cooperative Wildlife Research Unit at the University of Montana for many years.
Bart was another person like Phil Wright, who was very student-oriented, very much a mentor to get students involved in research.
When I first came into the profession, emphasis were very heavy on enhancement of game populations for fishermen and for hunters. I think it's been one moving from a rather narrow game-oriented profession to one that's looking more at the total ecosystem.
Dick Tabor was on the faculty back in the 1960s, and he actually got his master's degree working with Aldo Leopold at the University of Wisconsin.
When I was up there in Alaska, I got a wire that said, would you teach 6 courses in wildlife at the University of Montana? The University of Montana has very good college and zoology and botany, very competent people. So the University of Montana was a good place.
And later, when Dick was in his late 80s, he won the Aldo Leopold Award from the Wildlife Society for his many contributions on wildlife research in the northwestern part of the United States. John Craighead was the leader of the Montana Cooperative Wildlife Research Unit, spent about 25 years at the University of Montana. widely known around the country and around the world for his research on grizzly bears in Yellowstone Park.
I got a call from ELG asking me if I'd be interested in the job over here. I liked what I saw, and I said I would accept the job, and I came as the leader of Montana Cooperative Wildlife Research Unit. It was hardly a weekend, but we weren't at meetings to help get the Wilderness Act passed. I got very much involved in the Wild Scenic Rivers Act. And then in just the basic management of species now, we don't think much about it. And my brother and I developed the technique of radio tracking large mammals. And we developed, in our study of grizzly bears in Yellowstone. I learned a great deal because I was pretty naive. Managing a wildlife resource is much a political task as it is a biological one, and politics usually override the biological. I began my new career here, and I stayed here, even though I had many other opportunities, simply because I loved the country and because I got into long-term work to carry on some of these studies long enough to get results that could be applied practically to the environment.
One of the things that we did 6 or 8 years ago was to raise the money for an endowed chair in John's name. And if there's one thing I'm proud about, it's being able to get that done and introduce the whole idea and the concept to John at a reception a number of years ago and have John there to receive that honor. He's somebody who had a huge impact on many, many lives, especially of graduate students at the University of Montana.
So the Craighead Chair comes with trying to follow on the tradition of what John J. Craighead did, and he brought to the university, and he brought to America, and he brought to the world innovative wildlife management, conservation, education, inspiring people.
We're very proud to have 2 endowed chairs here at the University of Montana, the John J. Craighead Chair and the Boone and Crockett Chair. Boone and Crockett Club endowed a chair here back in the early 1990s. Hal Zalwasser was the first Boone and Crockett professor, followed by Jack Ward Thomas, who had been chief of the Forest Service, and today it's Paul Kraus.